What's good, YouTube? It's your boy, Blue Blood Sports TV, back at y'all with another one. So, we have an epic situation that took place as we had two legends, two retired Hall of Famers, but they both retired undefeated. The man known as Floyd Money Mayweather, 5-division world champion, former pound-for-pound king, former pay-per-view king, retired undefeated 50-0, Floyd Money Mayweather Jr. And we also had another retired legend in United Kingdom, former world champion, unified world champion, who retired undefeated, United Kingdom superstar, Joe Calzaghe. He retired 46 wins, no losses, no draws, 32 wins by way of knockout. He fought at light heavyweight, 5'11" with a 73-inch arm reach. With that said, at middleweight, excuse me. So Joe Calzaghe and Floyd Mayweather, they come face to face. They take pictures. And obviously, everybody wonders who's the best, who had the better career, who retired at the better career, with the better career. They both retired undefeated. Now, Floyd Mayweather, obviously, he retired 50-0, so he had 4 more fights than Joe Calzaghe, okay? And Floyd Mayweather, he fought and won in 5 separate weight classes. He's a multi-division world champion in 5 separate weight classes with 27 knockouts in his career. So Joe Calzaghe has 5 more knockouts than Floyd Mayweather. Floyd Mayweather has 4 more fights. But Floyd Mayweather, he's a 5-division world champion, okay? Where Joe Calzaghe, Joe Calzaghe, he's a 2-division world champion. He was a unified middleweight world champion, and then he was a world champion in light heavyweight, okay? So he held titles in 2 separate weight classes. He competed from 1993 to 2008. So he held the unified titles, in the super middleweight division. And then he held the light heavyweight titles, okay? So that's what Joe Calzaghe, he accomplished, okay? We know Floyd Mayweather, his career started in 1996. So Floyd Mayweather, he started 3 years after Joe Calzaghe started his career. And neither guy lost. Floyd Mayweather, though, he fought and beat more world champions than anybody in the history of the sport of boxing, okay? So he started his career back in 1996. And he finished it in 2017. So with that said, but Floyd Mayweather, he beat more world champions in the history of the sport of boxing than any other fighter. Okay, so Floyd Mayweather, he beat 23 to 24 world champions more than anybody in the history of the sport of boxing. Okay, so you have a guy that's a 5-division world champion, and a guy who's a 2-division world champion. Okay, and now you look at level of opposition. Floyd Mayweather, he beat guys in their prime, and Floyd Mayweather, he was essentially out of his prime, okay? Now, Joe Calzaghe, he had legacy, iconic fights on the table that never came to fruition until very late in their careers. Most notably, he never fought James Toney. Okay, and he fought Bernard Hopkins when he was 43 and beat Bernard Hopkins, but Bernard Hopkins was 43. And he fought and beat Roy Jones when Roy Jones was 39 years of age, okay? So they were much later in the later stages of their careers, okay? And Roy Jones had been knocked out multiple times. Bernard Hopkins had multiple losses on his resume by the time they fought Joe Calzaghe, okay? Floyd Mayweather, he fought Manny Pacquiao. Now, Manny Pacquiao was younger than Floyd Mayweather, okay? So Floyd Mayweather fought a younger guy in Manny Pacquiao. Now, Manny Pacquiao was in his late 30s already as well, but Floyd Mayweather is 3 years older than Manny Pacquiao. Floyd Mayweather fought Oscar De La Hoya when Oscar De La Hoya was in his late 30s, but he fought at, Oscar De La Hoya's demands, at the weight class, things of that nature. Floyd Mayweather, he fought against Canelo Alvarez. People going to tell you he was green, but he wasn't green. Canelo Alvarez had already had 5 title defenses and unified the titles against Austin Trout. Canelo Alvarez lost to Floyd Mayweather essentially every single round. He was 23 years of age. Floyd Mayweather was 36, going on 37 years of age. And Floyd Mayweather, he fought Shane Mosley. Shane Mosley was 38 going on 39 years of age. But these are guys, the difference is, here's where the difference lies, is that in his career, Floyd Mayweather that is, he attempted to fight Oscar De La Hoya when Oscar De La Hoya was still in his prime. And Oscar De La Hoya, well, he turned down the opportunity to fight Floyd Mayweather and said he was too high of a risk with too low of a reward, and he wasn't worth the fight. He tried to fight Shane Mosley when Shane Mosley was still in the prime of his career, and Shane Mosley, he turned down a fight with Floyd Mayweather and said he had a toothache. You know, he was coming off of a tough fight, and he had to go on vacation and mull over his next move. Floyd Mayweather tried to fight Joel Calzaghe. He turned him down. Floyd Mayweather attempted to fight Acelina Freitas. He turned him down. Floyd Mayweather attempted to fight Prince Nassim Hamed. He turned him down. Okay, so early in Floyd Mayweather's career, he was seeking out these fights with these fighters. And you could go back and you could look at these post-fight interviews with Prince Nassim Hamed, when Larry Merchant asking him about fighting Floyd Mayweather, and he's saying he's never going to fight Floyd Mayweather, essentially. And Larry Merchant does a post-fight press conference interview with Floyd Mayweather, and Floyd Mayweather says he wants to fight Prince Nassim Hamed, and Larry Merchant says, you know, he's never going to fight you. Larry Merchant presses Shane Mosley about fighting Floyd Mayweather, and he didn't get the answer he wanted. He pressed Oscar De La Hoya. So there's you can see the actual receipts as to these guys turning Floyd Mayweather down. On the flip side, James Toney, Bernard Hopkins, Roy Jones, these guys are looking to fight Joe Calzaghe, and Joe Calzaghe is refusing to come across the pond. He'd rather fight over in his country and essentially pad the stats. Now, this is not to take away from anything Joe Calzaghe has accomplished in his career, but he faced a high level of opposition when they were ripe for the picking for him is when he came across the pond. So he came across the pond anyway to fight Roy Jones and to fight Bernard Hopkins. So he could have did that when they was in their prime. He clearly saw an opportunity where he was still younger, fresher, and they had a lot of wear and tear and a lot of tread on the tires, and didn't have a lot of tread on the tires, and he saw an opportunity to beat them. And he did. Where Floyd Mayweather was chasing down the likes of Oscar De La Hoya for years. He was chasing down the likes of Shane Mosley for years. He was chasing down the likes of, Joel Calzaghe, who's a Hall of Famer. He was chasing down Costa Tszyu, who was a Hall of Famer. And Costa Tszyu avoided Floyd Mayweather, decided to fight Ricky Hatton. That didn't play out for him. Ricky Hatton beats Costa Tszyu, and then Floyd Mayweather immediately fights and knocks out Ricky Hatton in the 10th round of their fight. So these are fights that he aggressively pursued, that being Floyd Mayweather, and these guys just weren't willing to give him the opportunity because they understood the risk versus the reward, okay? And at that time, Floyd Mayweather understood that he had to get one of these guys in the ring, okay, to be able to shift the tides in his favor, and he be the cash cow, and then they have to come to him. So Floyd Mayweather understood very well what needed to take place. That's why when he finally got Oscar De La Hoya to agree in 2007, right, is when he took a 70-30 split in favor of Oscar De La Hoya. He allowed Oscar De La Hoya to choose the weight class they fought in, which was junior middleweight. He allowed Oscar De La Hoya to choose the ring size, which he shrunk the ring to make sure that Floyd Mayweather couldn't utilize the ring. Okay, he allowed, Oscar De La Hoya, he awarded Oscar De La Hoya all of the advantages because, like Floyd Mayweather said, once I beat you, I'm going to be the cash cow and everybody's going to have to come to me. So Oscar De La Hoya was 34 and Floyd Mayweather was 30, okay? You just look at Floyd Mayweather was 36 going on 37 when he fought undefeated Canelo Alvarez, who was 23. He got Oscar De La Hoya when he was 34 years of age, which means he wasn't that old, but he understood that he needed to turn the tides, and Oscar De La Hoya had already had 4 losses at this point in time, and so Floyd Mayweather understood that, I have to succumb to all his demands so that I could essentially, turn the tides and I be the cash cow. So he did just that, and that's just what happened. And then guys like Shane Mosley, they had to come to him. Now, when you look at Oscar De La Hoya and Floyd Mayweather, compared to Floyd Mayweather and Manny Pacquiao. Now, Manny Pacquiao situation was different with Floyd Mayweather. Floyd Mayweather, he went on a hiatus after his fight with Ricky Hatton. He came back. He wanted to fight Manny Pacquiao. Manny Pacquiao and his team, they admitted this. They dropped the ball because they stated that they could have, taken the opportunity to fight Floyd Mayweather at that point in time, which would have given them, the best chance to beat Floyd Mayweather in their eyes. But they feel like they dropped the ball because they stated they didn't want to fight him coming off an 18-month layoff. So Floyd Mayweather, he stated, how you going to tell me who and where I should fight? So he ended up fighting Juan Manuel Marquez. And, we know the rest is history. Floyd Mayweather asked Manny Pacquiao to take Olympic-style drug testing. He didn't want to do so. 5-year hiatus for both guys, and that prevented the fight from happening. Manny Pacquiao eventually decided, okay, I'll take the fight, and he did the Olympic-style testing. So he postponed and prolonged the fight for 5 years, Manny Pacquiao did. It could have happened 5 years earlier because he ended up taking the test anyway. So people will say, well, Floyd Mayweather, he fought Manny Pacquiao when he was old. Well, Floyd Mayweather was already much older at that point in time. He was 37 at the time he fought Manny Pacquiao, okay? So you got to factor in, he's older than Manny Pacquiao, okay? So with that said, Floyd Mayweather, he ended up fighting Manny Pacquiao and beating Manny Pacquiao unanimous decision. It wasn't even close, okay? And so with that said, he was 37, 38 years of age when he fought Manny Pacquiao. Manny Pacquiao was 35, 36, okay? But the prolong came in at the hands of Manny Pacquiao. It could have happened when Floyd Mayweather was 33 and Manny Pacquiao was 30, okay? Similar to Floyd Mayweather, Oscar De La Hoya. So Floyd Mayweather pursued all of these big fights. Whereas you look at Joe Calzaghe was the one being pursued and wasn't taking the opportunity. So it's no comparison, in my opinion, that Floyd Mayweather's career and his undefeated record and his legendary status retired is far more impressive than that of Joe Calzaghe's and his undefeated record and his retirement. Both legends, both have great legacies, but it's not even close. Floyd Mayweather has a greater legacy, and his undefeated record and resume is far more impressive. So also, when you look at Joe Calzaghe and his two biggest fights and his two biggest wins was against Bernard Hopkins and Roy Jones Jr. But when you look at it from this standpoint, they both dropped Joe Calzaghe in the fight. Floyd Mayweather dominated Manny Pacquiao. He dominated Shane Mosley, and he dominated Oscar De La Hoya. He dominated Canelo Alvarez, regardless of what age any of these guys was. When Joe Calzaghe fought Bernard Hopkins, and Joe Calzaghe fought Roy Jones, Bernard Hopkins was 43, Roy Jones was 39. They both dropped Joe Calzaghe. So imagine what they would have been able to do in their absolute prime against Joe Calzaghe. So you look at it from that standpoint. With that said, that's all I got for y'all. Make sure you hit the like button. Drop a comment in the comment section. Let me know what y'all think. Y'all already know what it is. It's your boy Blue Blood Sports TV. Hate, like, comment, and subscribe. If you haven't subscribed, hit the subscribe button. Hit the like button. Hit the bell icon to get all the new notifications. Follow me on Instagram at Blue Blood Sports TV, all one word. Y'all already know what it is. Shout out to the entire LDBC. Shout out to New Media. Shout out to Black Media Row. Make sure you like and share these videos. That's all I got for y'all. Peace.
This is Amanda, the Real Deal Serrano, and you're watching Blue Blood Sports TV.